Islam's already tweeted at you a few times, and like the most recent one, he says, "You're not Volk. I'll show you there at different levels. Keep my belt clean." Do you have any response to Islam?
No, come get it. Come get it.
With just weeks remaining until Islam Makhachev's highly anticipated welterweight debut, the Dagestani phenom enters the bout as a massive favorite, and we won't even argue with that. However, Jack's a very dangerous guy who holds some real chances to pull off the upset of the year and shock the entire MMA world. In today's video, we're breaking down the key reasons why JDM becomes a serious threat to Makhachev and what the Dagestani camp needs to be prepared for ahead of this championship showdown, unless they want to be sent back to Dagestan instead of fighting Ilya. But before we start, I ask you to subscribe to our channel unless you want to be locked in Islam's dars. Let's go. Let's start with my biggest concern regarding Islam, his cardio. Makhachev isn't getting any younger. He's 34 now, and we've already seen him seriously slow down in the later rounds against Poirier and Volkanovski. This time, he'll have an extra 15 to 20 pounds of body weight to carry at welterweight. When you compare Islam to Khabib, the difference is crazy. Nurmagomedov reportedly walked around close to 205 pounds while fighting at 155, whereas Islam has openly stated that his off-season weight is around 181 to 183 pounds, which is quite light for a lightweight, let alone a welterweight. And even there, he recently struggled with weight cuts. This past summer, Makhachev admitted that putting on size hasn't been easy, and despite his impressive physical form, he's likely to be one of the smaller welterweights, especially next to Maddalena, who, according to Dan Hooker, couldn't make 155 even if he cut off a leg.
We have to check that moment.
Of course, if Islam comes in and finishes Jack quickly, nobody will question his cardio. But if the fight goes deep, well, that's where things might get interesting.
Почему-то все, я слышу, что говорят, Ислам явно фаворит. Ну, как будто Мадалена, вот...
Не, мы так не считаем. Я так не считаю. Я считаю, что Мадалена самый сложный соперник в Ислама карьере. Это мое мнение. Ни Чарльз, никто. В этих боях вот маленькая ошибка будет стоить всего.
Khabib is once again using one of his trademark tactics, overhyping his opponent to make any potential victory by Islam look even more impressive.
This is #1 bullshit.
It's the same strategy he used against Gaethje when he claimed Justin was the hardest puncher he had ever faced. Yet Gaethje turned out to be the only fighter Khabib ever traded punches with, unlike Conor or Dustin, whom he immediately took down. So, let's be honest, those mentioning doesn't necessarily mean that the Dagestani camp respects Jack's skill set that much. Let me also remind you, the moment Bilal lost his title, Islam immediately decided to move up to welterweight, and he didn't even try to hide it.
Why did you decide now was the time to move up to welterweight? I know we've talked about this for a very long time. They offered you the fight at UFC 300 with Leon Edwards. You couldn't do it at that time. Why was now the time to make this move?
I don't see some interesting fight in my division. That's why I will make decision to move up, because now they have new champion and a very good fighter, Della Maddalena, and its fight make me training every day, make me wake up early morning.
Still, the memory of Maddalena's fight with Burns is very fresh, where Gilbert ragdolled Jack for nearly 14 minutes, tossing him around like a doll until he was stopped by a perfectly executed knee, a knee you hit once in a blue moon.
Ну, мое личное мнение, во-первых, Мадалена 2 раза больше, чем Илья.
Сопоставим.
Илья. Он 2 раза больше. Он выше, больше, ноги помощнее, корпус, бокс не хуже. И грэплинг он возится очень хорошо, если вы смотрели. Ну, для меня, если я например, буду готовить Ислама против Илья или Маддалены, для меня больше будет волновать и волнует Maddalena.
Even though Islam has a very solid defensive game in the stand-up, a lot of it comes down to his grappling threat. very few opponents are willing to throw long combinations against him. Dustin Poirier himself admitted that during the post-fight press conference.
His movement is really strange. The timing of it is really strange to get his cadence. I wanted to open up more and throw more volume, but when he would commit to the pocket, he would exit weird. His dips with his head, I heard my corner telling me throw the knee the whole time, but I just felt like I might get taken down off of it. And his movement is it's kind of awkward. It's a weird timing, so I couldn't get good combinations going. But everything else was what I expected.
I rate Islam's striking quite highly, especially after what he showed against Volkanovski and Poirier, not even mentioning his striking masterpiece against Charles. However, Jack Della Maddalena is a much bigger, naturally heavier athlete with cleaner, pure boxing technique. I'm not saying JDM is a better striker than the Diamond. Dustin definitely carries more one-punch knockout power, but Jack works the body-to-head transitions and has better combinations. Maddalena is young, fast, and doesn't rely much on kicks, which makes it harder for Islam to catch the leg and initiate takedowns, something he loves to do. On top of that, Jack switches stances fluidly, which adds another layer of unpredictability to his striking game. Islam has significantly upgraded his clinch game, no doubt about that. But the real question is, can he impose that same pressure against a heavier, stickier opponent who'll be ripping shots to his body the moment they tie up? That kind of fight can drain your gas tank fast, especially against the guy with hands like JDM. Maddalena knows how to apply pressure and force his opponents to fight off the back foot. Now, you could argue that this actually plays into Islam's strengths since he's comfortable countering and working off retreats. But there's a big difference between Charles Oliveira lunging at you with a flying knee straight out of the favelas and someone like Jack methodically breaking you down while cutting off the cage. Even DP and Volk, both in their mid-30s, had moments where they managed to back Islam up against the fence, making him uncomfortable. And every time Makhachev senses real danger, he shoots instantly, straight out of Abdulmanap's playbook. But what happens if he can't take down a bigger, stronger opponent? Right now, JDM eats wrestling for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Sure, he probably won't stuff every takedown attempt, especially early when Islam is fresh. But we've already seen what happens when Islam starts to fade. He struggled to wrestle a 35-year-old Poirier, and Volky even managed to reverse him several times. If Maddalena sets a high pace, controls the angles, and goes to the body and head in layers, he can force Islam to panic and burn energy. And if that happens, we might just witness the upset of the year.
But Australia don't have wrestling.
This is #1 bullshit.
If there's one area where Jack Della Maddalena could genuinely surprise people, it's in the scrambles. Yes, Gilbert Burns tossed Jack around like a doll. That's a fact. And yes, Islam Makhachev will almost certainly take him down. That's another fact. But in the critical moment of that fight against one of the most elite BJJ black belts, Jack managed to hit a beautiful sweep, get back to his feet, and, well, you know the rest. Do I think Burns is a better wrestler than Islam? Of course not. But in terms of pure jiu-jitsu and ground game, absolutely. And not even Habib could convince me otherwise.
This is #1 bullshit.
If this were a pure grappling match, I'd probably bet $50 on Gilbert Burns to win.
No way. No way. Why not? Because...
But this is MMA, and that changes everything. JDM frequently uses the octopus guard, which can effectively counter Islam's half-guard pressure, and he's been drilling escapes from Dars as well, if the fight turns into an extended ground battle that could drain Islam's gas tank, especially in a new weight class, against someone who won't just let Islam lay on him. And unlike Habib, Islam tends to chase submissions rather than focusing purely on control and ground and pound, which means he'll be taking more risks down there.
It's going to start on the feet and we'll go from there. But yeah, I think he's going to try and mix it up. I think he's going to probably try and get on the wrestling early, I'd imagine. Looking back on the Bilal fight, he probably sees that Bilal's mistake was maybe not getting on the wrestling early. So yeah, I expect in the first round we'll be getting to some, at least some grappling exchanges, you know.
As I said from the start, I still consider Islam the favorite. With the right game plan, Islam should be able to move on the back foot, pick his moments, and take Jack down. Since Dagestani wrestling is extremely hard to counter, getting back up from under Islam isn't easy either, especially if you're trying not to get caught in a Dars on the way up. But Makhachev at 170 is still very much a mystery box. We haven't seen his sparring footage. We don't know how his speed has translated or how well his recovery holds up at this weight. That's why Jack Della Maddalena, fueled by the confidence of a young, aggressive champion who isn't afraid of wrestling or grappling, has a real shot to become the man who shocks the Dagestani Empire. Will he actually do it? We'll find out soon enough.